your source for everything paranormal. Para X. The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors. Welcome to Stirring the Cauldron on the Para X Radio Network. And now, here's your host, Marla Brooks.
Hey, merry meet everybody, and welcome to Stirring the Cauldron here on Para X. My guest tonight is Lawren Leo, and he's a spiritual counselor, an occult explorer, a practicing witch, the founder and co-editor of the e-zine The Familiar, and the proprietor of New Moon Books, Crystals, and Candles Incorporated, which is a metaphysical boutique in Pompano Beach, Florida. Now, he's also the author of the magical primer Dragon Flame, a collection of short stories, 9 Crooked Paths, and his latest book, a spell book called Horse Magic, and that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. As always, if you have any questions or comments for Lawren, please send them to me if you're in the Para X chat room at paraxradionetwork.com. Welcome, Lawren. It's been a long time since you've been here, but it's nice to have you back.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I'm so excited to get into this book, like I told you a minute ago, because this is a book that most people are thinking, horse magic? Okay, a witch or a Wiccan immediately will think of the horse braid spell, right, to protect your horse. But this it's a book of spells. It's a book of rituals for self-empowerment, for protection and prosperity. But let's start out. Tell us a little bit about the significance of the horse spirit.
Well, horse spirit was the driving force behind the inspiration for this particular book. And as you said, it's a spell casting book. It's a book of spells, which most people don't realize, and it's a pleasant surprise. Sacred horse totem is filled with so much power. It represents freedom. It represents passion. And it represents this primal urge to create. And I always feel that it's important to be the predominant creative force in your own life. So it's a book about self-empowerment, and that's why that's in the title, Spells and Rituals for Self-Empowerment, Protection, and Prosperity, plus there's love and health and many other spells. But really, horse represents this ability for us to be seated on its back. So we're above the earth. We're lifted off of the earth. And think of this as something metaphorical, right? Mm-hmm. So we're lifted off the earth. So we're somewhere between the sky and the earth, and we're connected to the earth with this incredibly powerful animal, the horse. Mm-hmm. So here we have this metaphor for witchcraft, for the astral realm, something in between, something when the veil parts. We have the astral realm. And that's why the horse came to me as such a powerful inspiration point for the book.
Were you a horse person before writing the book? I mean, did you own horses? Did you ride horses? How familiar were you with horses?
I've always loved horses, but I'll be brutally honest right now. When I was a little boy, probably 6 or 7 years old, my first experience with a horse was I was terrified. I am as a little boy, and coming face to face with this large animal, and I was terrified until my father put my hand on its muzzle, and it was so soft and was so loving, and then you learn to respect horses, and so I fell in love with them, and they've been around me off and on throughout my entire life, and I definitely am an equestrian. Am I an active equestrian right now? No, every so often throughout my life I am. So they've been there in my life, and it just it seems to be an animal that stays with me, and it made an impression on me. They're so powerful. When you have a dog or a cat, because I'm an animal lover, and I love dogs, I love cats, and each of them are so different. Dogs are so rovery and fun and unconditional love, and cats are so they're a very psychic creature.
Yes.
And right? And as a witch and someone who's witchy, I love having cats as well.
Yeah.
But the animal called a horse is completely different than dogs and cats, and it leaves a lasting impression because your interaction with the horse is magical to begin. You have to learn about the horse. You have to learn how to control the horse. And that really took place in the book as well. That was highlighted. How do we control our magical force?
Exactly. And, when you're talking about that, I was thinking, first of all, anybody that's ridden a horse, that has been on a horse, can feel the power underneath them as you're riding. But then also, as you kept talking, I'm thinking about a merry-go-round. We've all ridden horses of some form. Everybody's been on a merry-go-round. And those are sturdy, hard horses, too. So, the image of the horse, take Mr. Ed. He was a nice horse, right? But, talking horse. But they are. People, sometimes I get mad when I think, they're beasts of burden sometimes, because I would just want one, not as a pet per se, but, I would treat it just like another family member too. They're beautiful creatures and they can be very gentle, and but they do have that very strong power with them. And I think that shows through the whole book in everything that you've written about.
You bring up a good point, because with the merry-go-round, the image of the horse is everywhere. It's multicultural. It's around the world. It is an archetype. And that's what allowed me to write the Dream Dictionary as well. And I don't want to get ahead of myself, but
we will get that. We'll get to that.
But that's definitely that's a salient point. It's an important point. That you see them everywhere. You see images of horses everywhere.
Exactly. Got a quick question from the chat room before we go any further. They want to know if you think that horse magic works best if people have an affinity for horses, or perhaps like someone who follows Chinese astrology and they were born in the year of the horse. Would that make that power even stronger?
Yes and no. I believe that in the Chinese astrology, the year of the horse, there's definitely going to be a psycho-spiritual connection to horse totem. So yes, but it does not exclude anyone that is not the year of the horse. And I really want to, I'm so glad that someone asked that question. It's a great question. And so the yes part is, yes, there is an affinity. And if you have an affinity toward horses, yes, it does enhance the magic. Why? Because you're already attracted to horse totem. But it does not exclude someone who doesn't like horses, has never been around a horse, doesn't own a horse. I made sure that when I wrote this book, it was inclusive. I wanted it to be inclusive, 21st century. I wanted it to include every important aspect of our life that we're dealing with, because this is the spells in my book are spells to help empower people. They're about restructuring society, which is happening right now. And there's basically a revolution taking place. And it is about BIPOC, LGBTQAI+. It is about any of the issues at hand.
Mm-hmm.
So that question, that was a wise question, because it on a witchy level, yes,
mm-hmm.
it does. It's more of a pack, a punch to the spells. But people are going to fall in love with horses when they read this book in a very different way.
Yes.
Especially if they are not even in tune with that energy yet.
Yeah, it's rather amazing. Now, you just alluded to something I was going to ask you about anyway. In creating the book, it was your intention to embrace the 21st century, of globalism and all the pressing issues that you just mentioned and everything. But, knowing how long it takes to get a book published, and I don't think that it's, you wrote this yesterday and thought it and it was published, the next day. I don't think that a year ago even though you had maybe knowing that the world was not in a great place there either, even a year ago, but who knew what it was going to turn into this. But we couldn't imagine the kind of turmoil we're in today. So do you think that the timing might have had a little bit of divine intervention in guiding you to do the book at this point in time?
There's something amazing that happens when you start to write a book, and I'm speaking from the perspective of not just a writer, but also from someone who is psychic and also creative and a practicing witch and ceremonial magician, where we seemingly walk into a very particular room within our memory palace, or we seemingly walk down a very particular path, and mine was starting to write this book. Mm-hmm. And you're right, with publishing it takes at least 1 or 2 years, and this was a 2-year endeavor. Mm-hmm. So there was something remarkable that happened, because I believe that somewhere in my subconscious, somehow the spirits of the astral realm pushed me to write this book. And the timing really was unbelievably on point.
Yes.
From the spell to end discrimination and for justice, to the spell to stop bullying. Mm-hmm. You can apply that to the political climate that we're in right now, to the spell to embrace your own uniqueness, to the spell for a correct medical diagnosis. All of that is in horse magic. Mm-hmm. Because something that's important, and I'm going to point this out, the spells in this book are not by me. They are brought to me from spirit when I'm in a trance state. And in this particular occasion, it was inspired and brought to me through horse spirit, ergo horse magic. Mm-hmm. But this is something that I believe was given to me to write about, that could help people, because it really is it's just amazing how important it is and relevant right now to what's going on in the past 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, it's spot on. But, the other, I think, a little bit of the divine intervention came from our divine friend Judica Illes, didn't it?
Yes, very much so. Judica, what a wonderful woman, huh?
Yes.
Judica, and for anyone who's listening, Judica Illes, who is the author of Encyclopedia 5,000 Spells and many more books, is a friend of mine and my editor, was my editor for Horse Magic. Mm-hmm. And really this book came into being because of conversations with Judica and her pointing out that there's a niche for horse magic. There are so many books about horses, but there is no specific book on horses that is a spell book. This is the first book that has ever been written about horse magic with a spell book. So there are many out there, but she pointed out the niche, and then this started to take form and take shape, and it morphed into what it is now.
Oh, it morphed into a wonderful book. And just as a comment, I mean, the book, and for people that don't know yet, the book combines magic with studies in art history, in archaeology, in literature, and folklore at the beginning of each chapter, followed by spells, rituals, chants, meditations. So you cover a whole lot of bases, and I think that's why the book is so interesting as well as helpful. So,
you know, I'm so lucky to have a brother that is an art historian, and he, you know, my brother Dominic Leo did an amazing and superlative job with the primary source research on the deities. And, you know, it's fun working with family. For me, it is. You know, not all the time, but in this case, it was. And but we would sit down and he would share some of the research with me, and I would absorb the research and I would share my research with him. And I thought it was very important to, and this is important for spell casting, I felt it was very important to supply the knowledge and the education and the background behind the spell. Where did the spell come from? How did that come to me in a trance state? What does the spell mean? What did it mean to me? And what about the deities? Where did the deities come from? And I'm not talking about going to Wikipedia on Google. Not that there's anything wrong with Wikipedia, but I'm talking about really going to the first source. Where did you really find that information? I wanted people to learn and to be excited to learn about, for instance, there is a spell to rebuke a psychic attack, and for protection to tower it and Amit. Who's tower it, who's Amit? Let me give a background on these two deities. It's interesting. It's brief, concise, but interesting, and that way the spell works better. And, right? I thought it was very important.
No, it does. And I was just thinking, when I did my Witch's Oracle deck, I was just going to come up with the images and, you know, whatever they represent. But my editor said, let's put a little paragraph before that about it. You know, what is an Ankh? What is a besom? You know, what does an Athena do? You know, put history, put a paragraph of history, then give them the reading, you know, for the booklet. And it makes a big difference when people really understand what they're seeing and where it came from the source, like you said.
It opens it up to everyone.
Yeah.
And again, there's that theme of inclusivity. You know, I want everyone to be a part of this, and especially right now, we're finally making some leeway in our society where being called a witch is not, you know, the same as being called a witch, but minus the W out of B. You know, so we're finally able to come further out of the broom closet and enjoy the power that comes with being a witch. And also, you know, and this is important, it's very, it's no longer avant-garde. It's not like this new wave that's happening. It's something that everyone can embrace, especially right now when you need to become your own arbiter of justice. As I say, we live in a world that is filled with so much social injustice that our true self, it's next to impossible for it to emerge. So let's find something that echoes what's going on on the interior. I wrote the poem. I call it a poem, some of them, because it came to me in a lyrical manner. But the spell, to stop bullies, I wrote that because it echoed the distress within me. And when I was in a trance state and I received it, and I started to, I go with the feeling, with what I've received, and I use it as the kernel, the psychic kernel, and then I build around it. I write around what comes to me. It echoed the distress in me. I wanted something that was going to help people that were being bullied, that were being bullied by one person, a group of people, by an institution. And I also have spells that are filled with joy, because it echoes the joy within me.
Yes. And this is one thing that it's so good about, because sometimes people feel that they're helpless, but you talk in the book about the essence of horse spirit is its freedom. And then right off the bat, you speak of a time when we were all burden-free as kids. Then, not all kids, but you know what I mean. But then came adulthood, and we learned about responsibilities and fears and emotional bondage and the rest. And those burdens that hold us in emotional bondage. So, and you explained that these burdens are an outcome of our conscious and our subconscious decisions, and that means that they consist of energy that can be changed. I'm quoting you here. And that's very encouraging, because I think lots of people don't think that they have any control over things. But we can make these changes, can't we?
Most certainly. And this here is the essence of witchcraft, right? Because as we begin to learn witchcraft and casting spells, we understand that this is something that comes from our subconscious. Another word for the subconscious is the unknown, or the astral realm. And this is where all of the energy begins. Our thoughts have to begin somewhere. So we have the ability, with spell work, and that's what this book is geared toward, to go into the subconscious, posit something amazing into it, such as, now I am well taken care of and have a comfortable life. Posit an affirmation. Posit an idea of an affirmation. How do you get an idea of an affirmation? That comes from a spell. So if the spell is about success, you now are positing an energy of success into your subconscious. And you're giving yourself a chance to change. You're telling your subconscious mind, work with this energy. Make this change. Get used to this new energy pattern. So we have the ability and to change. I mean, let's face it, life can be difficult. There's always something. Someone said to me once, I was reading for someone, and I said, well, once you get over this portion of negativity in your life, you're going to have at least a respite for at least a month. And they said, well, thank you, and I love that you said that, Lawren, but every day something happens. It's probably going to be my dishwasher the next day that breaks. And,
oh, gosh.
But they're right. I mean, there's something every day, and how do we cope with what's going on every day? If you're raising children, or if you are trying to work a 9 to 5, or in this day and age, if you're trying to work from home and raise your children, or if you're trying to meet someone, life comes at you. It gets difficult.
But
this book is a respite.
It is. And it helps people understand that we can take control, because it's real easy to fall into the category of victim. This is happening to me. I can't do this. I won't do that. This one is saying bad things. Now we can't leave the house. We're in quarantine. Now we have to wear a mask. I mean, all this stuff that's going on, all the backstabbing on sides of both sides. But first of all, you don't need to embrace all that negativity. Secondly, with reading this book, with the spells that you're talking about, we can take control over our lives to some degree. And to the degree that we might be able to sleep at night without tossing and turning and be able to turn off our minds here and there. Because, a lot of people are having insomnia these days because there's just too much going on.
Oh, I agree. And the spell for freedom from burdens and stress is one of the first spells that someone will encounter with my book, Horse Magick. And that's one of the first spells for an important reason, because what I'm trying to do is to get someone to release that negative pattern, to release their anxiety, their depression, to be able to leave room to send energy to motivate themselves to want to be healthy, to be healthier, to be stronger. And that is what makes us more powerful as witches and ceremonial magicians and practitioners of the art. And there was something that happened to me when I began to write out the first spell. And that was, I realized that it seemed to be this automatic way of organizing my focus and my thoughts and my thought process and my time and my actions. And I thought, wow, this is pretty wonderful. I mean, this is giving me a chance to focus, get away from negativity, focus on something that's positive. And it gave me a chance to allow guided change to come into my life once more. And it attracts the spirits as well. You're attracting the spirit that you're thinking about.
It's all about intention. It's all about visualization. I mean, things that people think, well, we can't see it, so maybe it doesn't work. Try it. Honestly, you don't have to be a witch to try that. Seriously. It helps maybe a little bit, but you don't have to be, So, well, it's because we know the intention. We know about manifestation. We have a little head start on some people, so it's probably easier for us. But, it's just something that is really important. Now, we've got like 2 minutes to break, and I've got 2 chat room questions, so I'm going to ask the first one, and then we'll get the other one when we come back. She says, I love horses. I think they're majestic, but I'm afraid being around them. Why do you think that is?
It could be why I was afraid when I was first around them, and that is that they can be imposing without contact, without someone there with you. It's always nice to have someone that knows about horses around you the first time. They're large animals, unless you're around a Shetland, which is a small pony. They're large animals. So I believe that there, A, it could be something from your past life. B, it could be something in your subconscious that triggers some kind of trauma, which creates anxiety. And C, it's also it gives you the opportunity to confront that fear. Even right now, as we're talking about this, whoever asked the question, you're confronting the issue, and it gives you some control over it. I think horses have something very special to offer you. You may not want to be around them. Stick with the book. You don't need to be around the horse to practice witchcraft or horse magic.
Yeah, horse spirit is always around. All right, we're going to take a quick break. I've got more chat room questions. I've got more of my own questions. So we'll get a little bit deeper into the book when we return. So everybody get up, take a quick stretch, and we'll be back in 2 minutes.
Stirring the Cauldron will be right back, so don't go away. If you end up with webbed feet, remember, you've been warned.
everyone, it's Marla. If you like tonight's episode of Stirring the Cauldron and the archive podcast as well, take a look at the show's YouTube channel and check out the dozens of shows that are there just waiting to be heard. New shows are added each week, and while you're there, why not subscribe? It's free. And if you click on that tiny little bell icon at the top of the page, you'll be notified when new shows are available. Just go to youtube.com and then type in Stirring the Cauldron Para X and the link will appear. Just like magic.
For almost 2 decades, Midnight Syndicate has composed the soundtrack to your darkest nightmares. The imaginations of fans worldwide have been fueled by its gothic, horror, and fantasy symphonic albums. A staple of the haunted house and amusement park industry, for many, the music of Midnight Syndicate is the music of Halloween. Now, Midnight Syndicate will bring your nightmares to life in a spectacle of sound from beyond the grave.
Welcome back to Stirring the Cauldron. Once again, here's your host, Marla Brooks.
Okay, we are back, and I do love Midnight Syndicate's music. All right, I've 2 questions from the chat room, and then we'll jump back into the book. Ceiling Cat wants to know what person should be using horse magic and who shouldn't be.
I would say anyone can use horse magic. Again, it brings that theme of inclusivity. When I wrote horse magic, I wrote it in a non-linear fashion, meaning that you can jump into it anywhere. So you don't have to start on page 1 and follow it chronologically. I wrote it for anyone that finds a spell that they feel they need. And I wrote it for anyone that is interested in magic. They don't know where to start. This is a good book to start. And the title Horse Magic has a tendency to say this is all it is. It's about horses, but it's not. Horse Magic is really a spell casting book. It's a book of spells, and it's a dream dictionary, and it's a wonderful book for anyone that is curious about magic, and really, and you know this, Marla, anyone that works a spell, you can pick a spell out of any book, and you can work it from being a beginner to being an adept. And that's the wonderful part about being a practitioner of the arts. So this book is for anyone. It's for horse lovers. It's for animal lovers. It's for someone that wants nothing to do with animals and is interested in the spells. And it's for someone that wants to empower themselves or help to empower others as well. And actually, I will say that the best person for this book is someone that wants to change their life for the better, maintain a good quality of life, become a more powerful person, witch, practitioner of the arts, to understand their subconscious and to have control and understanding of the unseen and their subconscious, and to make a mark on this world for the better, and to also share it with others. We're part of a mutual otherness. If you feel that you have mutual otherness, then this book is for you.
Nicely put. All right, the other chat room question is, earlier in the show you mentioned about horse deities. Who are some of the horse deities?
There are so many horse deities.
Well, that's, I guess, why they said some.
Yes, right. There is a particular. I'm going to start with the horse breed that I love, and then I'm going to talk about a horse deity. But there's a horse breed that I love, and it's called archetype, and it is the most astonishingly beautiful breed of horse. They're found in Turkmenistan, Central Asia. And there is something about their coat that it gives a metallic sheen. It's just gorgeous. They're amazingly beautiful. They're very, they're muscular yet sinewy, and they're so beautiful. That particular breed I have it is in the spell to wed yourself to good luck. So, and I will leave that as a surprise for anyone. If they have a copy of Horse Magic right now, turn to spell to wed yourself to good luck, and you will learn about a very interesting horse deity. If you don't, it's a surprise for you when you do purchase the book, or if you do purchase it. There is also a horse deity. Epona is this amazing goddess who they actually found in stables. They found altars that the soldiers would worship Epona on, because she would protect the stables, she would protect the horses. And we have to remember that in ancient Rome and in ancient times, the horse held great importance. That was your best friend. That was your mode of transportation. This was, and in some cases, indeed, other than being a sacrifice to a god or goddess or deity, it was also used for food. So, and for survival. So it held great importance. So Epona, the spell that came to me with Epona was how to bond with your animal, how to protect your animal, how to remember the spirit of any animal that has passed on. So I'm immediately attracted to Epona, and again, that's in the spell to bond with your animal.
Okay, that's good. Because all right, so you were talking about the different breeds, but I had a question already lined up. That I mean, first of all, I sometimes don't know where to begin in talking about this book, because I was enthralled from the very first page, and I'm not going to lie. I was smiling, literally, as I was going through the chapters. It's good I live alone that nobody could see that. She's losing it. But each chapter is devoted to a specific type of horse, like the marble horse, the pagan horse, the folkloric horse. But they're not listed by breeds as one might think. And some of them aren't even equine, like the African river horse or the humble horse. So maybe you could better explain, before I confuse everybody, about these different types of horses that you've got in different chapters.
Sure. So I would tell you that the table of contents is an academic table of contents, and I would say skip it. I'm going to tell you where to go to find the spells, and this is really important. The spells are listed in two places. In the book, they're in the index, and there's a pretty cohesive list starting on page 188 in the index.
Yeah.
And it gives a list of all of the spells. And also there is a list of spells that are in the form of memes on my personal website, LawrenLeo.com. And if you go to LawrenLeo.com and you click on the tab Memes and Features, you will see a list of every single spell, an excerpt from each spell, and it's also, there will be a hot link for each chapter to tell you which chapter holds which spells. So it's there for you. You just have to go to the index or go to lawrenleo.com. I've also uploaded a ton of the memes onto my Instagram at lawrenleo, and you can see them on my Instagram page as well. And when you're writing a book, it starts to change, and it never stays the same. It keeps moving and transforming until it takes on this wonderful shape. And by the time it took on this shape, there was this general understanding that the spells should be in the index, and the spells should be uploaded onto my website. And again, the table of content, look through it because it is interesting, like folkloric horse.
Yes.
It brings you to Baba Yaga, the Russian witch, and who I love. And yes, she's dark, and yes, she's scary, but I am a witch, and I love that. It's so enthralling and alluring to me. And she came to me when I was in a trance state and gave me a spell. And that spell is very unique. It's one of my favorite spells. And it is a spell that will help you anticipate the future. It is created in such a way that it is going to put enough psychic pressure on your subconscious that will allow you to have a vision or some form of guidance of the future. It could be clairaudience. The three clairs take place here. Clairaudience, clear hearing, clairvoyance, clear vision, and clairsentience, clear knowing. And that particular spell I love so much because it's so filled with folklore and tradition, and it's this scary Russian witch who gives you, she's known to give you the most amazing advice. She's either going to eat you or she's going to give you the most amazing advice. So I thought that dichotomy alone deserved a chapter in horse magic, and I don't know if a lot of people are aware that Baba Yaga also owns stables. So here, isn't that curious? I found that out in research. That she owns stables, and that is also a part of the folkloric horse.
Yeah.
Again, this is all something that when you delve into the index, you see the spells, and then you find Baba Yaga.
Yeah, I again, that made me grin. I think she's in my DNA somewhere. But that's a whole nother story. I have a great-grandmother that was a Russian witch, so, it might have trickled down the bloodline or something. Anyway, so since this is essentially a spell book, let's talk a brief moment about spells, because suppose someone listening is interested in getting your book and trying some of the spells to help better control their lives or their health or whatever, but they might feel the need for a little bit of information about, like, trying to cast a spell. They may be afraid of doing something that could be hurtful to themselves or others. So what would be your best advice for people who aren't witches or magicians but would like to use some of your spells?
I would say buy the book, get it for the historical research, the folklore, the tradition, and if you're interested in the spells, delve in. I call myself an occult explorer because I'm adventurous, and when someone has a need in their life, now let's separate this from want, because that comes into play as well, but this is very important in spell casting. We need to be very clear with what we need. So if you open up Horse Magic and look in the index under page 188 under spells, where you just peruse the book and you find a spell that you need. You need the spell to have a successful love life. you need the spell, get off your high horse, to knock someone's ego down that is messing around with you and harming you. Whatever the need is, whatever your curiosity is, delve into it. You can't hurt yourself with a spell if your purpose is clear. Why do you want the spell? Why do you want to bring what the spell offers you into your life? And this is where we ask ourselves, what is the motivation of the creator? This is the first question I ask myself as a practicing witch. What is my motivation as a creator? So when you delve into the book and you find a spell that you like and it resonates with you, you focus on what it means, read about the history and the folklore, the tradition behind the spell that I have in the book to help give a foundation, and educate yourself, and then start practicing the spell. This is one of the things that I like to do, is when I find a spell I like to live with it for a little. I like to see how I feel. When I go to bed at night and I read a book to relax myself, after I'm done reading the book, I look at the spell. I say the spell a couple times. I actually desire deeply to know what the spell means completely. I analyze it. I live with it. And I do this for maybe 3 or 4 nights in a row, sometimes during the daytime. And usually in the morning when I'm taking a shower, I get some of my best thoughts, and I allow those thoughts to bubble up to the surface of my consciousness. And that can only happen if you're living with the spell for a little. So find a spell, live with it for a little, read what I've explained about the spell. I even explain why you would need the different product for it, and why would you need a clear quartz? Why would you need periwinkle? So I explain why you need these different products. Live with it and see how it starts to make you feel, because as I've said I wrote this in my book, Love's Shadow and On Crooked Paths, every spell is a journey. So as soon as you find this spell, you begin a journey. You don't have to sit down, light a candle, and chant the spell for that spell to start to happen. I think that we are people that are so sophisticated. Our mind and our subconscious is so beautiful that we're actually subconsciously, without knowing it, seeking something that is seeking us. And that's how you're going to find a spell. And that's right there, your journey begins. So live with it for a little.
Excellent explanation. Kathy in the chat room just put a note. She said the spells are very well explained and very interesting. So there you go.
Thank you.
No, and the last chapter of the book is spells on the run, and I love some of the names of the spells, like Charlie Horse, get off your high horse, hold your horses. So that's another source of getting a whole lot of spells, and they're. Do they differ much from the other ones? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. They seem to be easier spells, quicker spells, just kind of grab it and do it, rather than something that might take a long time.
You got it. That's exactly it. These spells, when I wrote those spells, it was, I asked myself, what can I offer someone that is a spell that is a spell on the run? It's a fast spell. You don't have a lot of time. You need something to work. And that's where that chapter originated. And it also is just as powerful and profound as the other spells. It's just created in a fashion that will help you work a spell quickly.
Yeah, no. Good. I got it right then. Now, I'm going to get into the equine dream dictionary, because the spells, the rituals, and the meditations in the book, like we were talking about, include the steps, the supplies, and info, simple to follow, all that. The dictionary that you wrote in the book is important because you say from the very start that if someone begins working with horse spirit, they may begin dreaming of all things equine in nature. So tell us about the dictionary.
The Dream Dictionary is a very important facet of not just the book, but for anyone that is interested in dreams. I always feel that dreams are opportunities. They're opportunities to learn more about ourselves, to analyze who we are, what's going on around us. Does the dream happen in the kitchen? Then it means that, things that happen in the kitchen it's cooking. So it's something that's happening right now. It's important. Is the dream happening in the bedroom? Then it might be something that is trying to tell you something very private and very important on that level. So this Equine Dream Dictionary is specific and non-specific. It's specific in the sense of horses, obviously, because as you are reading horse magic, you're going to find that horse imagery pops up everywhere. It is going to be in your Facebook feed, TikTok, Instagram, all through social media. You're going to start noticing more messages and omens coming to you in an equine fashion. For instance, you may see someone that is wearing a horseshoe charm or has a tattoo of a horse or a horseshoe or an equine image. And then you're going to dream anything about horses or horses themselves. And most likely it's going to be found in my Equine Dream Dictionary. We need to take the opportunity to learn about ourselves, to analyze who we are. It makes us more adept at working spells. It makes us more interesting as people. It helps us generate a path from an original concept of something that we want to create to the final concept and creation of it in reality. Because it has to happen inward first before it manifests outward. So dreams are very, very important. So I've written this also in a non-specific fashion, which means that if you read this book and you are talking with a friend or you're out for drinks or there's so many scenarios, from being with a best friend who's interested in witchcraft or being in a coven or going out to dinner and seeing an image of a horse, or someone talks to you about it and says, look, I had this really cool dream last night, and they bring up something about a horse or a horseshoe or anything of that nature. You'll be able to actually understand and help that person. And it's also allowing you to know that you're expanding your consciousness. You're expanding your horizon and learning more. So it's adding to your chest of magical ideas, your treasure trove. And that's what our subconscious is all about. And I also have a spell that is a spell to call your personal dream horse. And this is basically calling on your spirit guide to come to you. And the importance of having a spirit guide come to you is just that. You have a spiritual guide. You have the ability to, if you're afraid of heights and you leave your body and you have a flying dream, you call on your spirit guide to be there with you, to help you. If you are experiencing problems in a relationship and before you go to sleep you need help, you write on a piece of paper, dream source, spirit guide, horse spirit guide, please come to me in my dream, help me with this problem, shake me, wake me, so that I remember when I wake up. And you put it underneath your pillow, and you are able to receive an answer. And lastly, you journal your dreams. And it's important to journal your dreams. And it does take some discipline, but if you journal your dreams, you are telling your subconscious and the astral realm and the spirits that you honor the message and the messages that you're receiving from them. And in return, they're going to give you more messages, more profound messages, and perhaps even offer a lucid dream where you become aware that you're dreaming, or a prophetic dream. And you're also able to gauge your progress, not just as an individual, but as a practitioner of the arts.
Yeah, I mean, the book is so comprehensive on so many different levels that I can't even begin to to make it any more interesting than it already is, because we got just a comment in chat from Ceiling Cat. She says, my guests are eating into her book budget, which is a really good compliment. So you just sold a book. I mean, or whatever. But anyway, we're going to have to be galloping out of here shortly. Sorry, the pun had to do it. But before we run out of time completely, we've got like a minute. Give out your website information again, and then give us a quick mention of New Moon Books.
Sure. So I have two websites. One, my personal one. It's LawrenLeo.com, and I'll spell it for you because my name is spelled differently. It's LAWRENLEO.com. And you'll find all of the spells listed on my personal website. Also, newmoonbooks.org, which is my New Age store. It's a brick-and-mortar store. It is in Pompano Beach, Florida, and it is actually, I'm celebrating my 10th year anniversary.
Oh, wow.
So I'm very excited about that 10 years, which went by with the blink of an eye. I'm so grateful because the entire community is so supportive, and especially in this time of COVID. But I want to get this out there. This is very important. There are two things that are very important. Please support all local businesses. Please support small businesses. They are the backbone of our economy. Please leave, if you read Horse Magic and you like it, please leave a review on Amazon. It helps with the algorithm, and it helps other people know that it's out there. And it's probably the nicest thing that you can do for an author, and not just for me, for any author, if you read their book and you like it.
I agree. All right. Got to run, but thank you for taking this time to share the book. It's great. I'm not lying. And I'm thanking everybody for listening in, either live or on the podcast. And until next time, everybody, blessed be, and merry meet again. Good night.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Stirring the Cauldron with Marla Brooks. Please join us again next week at the same time for another great guest and more cauldron stirring. Any rebroadcast or other use of this program without explicit permission is strictly prohibited. Copyright 2024. The Mysterioso March by Kevin MacLeod is licensed through Incompetech.com.